So right guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video I thought I'd just do a quick sort of maintenance guide on DT Swiss rear Freehub. If you've got a DT Swiss rear wheel and it uses the pull system, that's PAWL, then I'll just show you how to check that and re-grease it if you've got one of those fitted to your bike. So I'll go ahead and show you some of the steps. Right, so here we have a DT Swiss rear wheel. This just happens to be a an R20 die cut rear wheel. Obviously it doesn't matter if you've got an R23 spline or a rear wheel or a R32, R24, could be a disc wheel as well, as long as it uses, like I say, the 3-pull rear hub, 11 speed. So if you've got one of these like this, you've got the cassette on there. Now, just by spinning it there, it's free enough, but sometimes they won't freewheel properly, as in you'll go to freewheel and the chain goes slack and hit your chainstay because the freewheel's not freewheeling properly. It's still trying to move when it should be freewheeling. So that's one thing to look out for. But obviously maintenance, it's better just to grease it than it is to replace the Freehub body, because it's not a cheap, you know, they're not that cheap to replace the Freehub or just the body itself. You have to buy a new body, so it's easier just to maintain it than it is. Prevention's better than cure. So to remove it, you can either, there's two ways of doing it really. I mean, you can remove your cassette, your traditional way, just get your chain tool on there, remove your lock ring, take your cassette off, and then you're just left with a Freehub. Now, sometimes they're stuck on, if you haven't touched it ever, sometimes they can be on there pretty well. So sometimes it's better, you can leave the cassette on like this and pull up, put your hand behind the cassette and pull up both sides, obviously, 2 hands, and pull up on it and it can pop off. So that's the way I tend to do it, only because I know this has been off before many a time, so I should just be able to pop it off. So I'll go ahead and we'll try it. Right, so here goes. You just put your hands either side of it like so and just push against the spokes, and there you go, it pops up like that. Obviously the cassette, the Freehub, sorry, will still be inside the cassette obviously, but the end cap there, what your quick release goes through, will be loose like that. But don't worry about that, that's just the way it comes off. But obviously if you slide it up off like so, and there it is. So I'll just go and show you the inside of it and how to grease it up and that, what to check for. Right, so here we have the inside there of the Freehub body. You can see it's a 3-pull hub, rear hub, and the pulls are the bit sticking out there, there and there. And what they do is they just spring in and out. Now, so you can go ahead and just check they move freely by just pushing on them. So they're spring loaded, like so. But as you can see, the grease in there, even though I maintain this regularly, you can see that grease, it doesn't take very long for the grease, just the water to get in there and the grease to turn like that. So it's better just to check it more often than, I mean, I'll check it probably, if it was in the winter, I'll check it every, I'll grease it probably every couple of weeks, depending on how many miles you do obviously. But yeah, there's the pulls there. See down inside like that, it's just got a spacer. It's got another bearing at the opposite end of that as well. So if you've taken the cassette off and you've just got the Freehub in your hand, then you can go ahead and check that bearing as well on the opposite end, because it's the bearing that they tend to stick on. So if it gets stuck on there, sometimes it's just the bearings catching, because it hasn't been greased. The bearing on the opposite end, on this end in here of the Freehub body, it can just get stuck on the shaft that's sticking out the wheel, which I'll go and show you now. It can get stuck on the end of here, but in there you can see your teeth in there that just engage when the pulls are sticking out like that. They're engaging into the teeth. And you've just got a spacer there that slides off. You can take that off. You can clean that and grease it. Just give it a check. Down in there you've got the wheel bearing. Down inside there. You can just go and check this shaft as well. Make sure it's not scored or got any bad wear on it or anything. It should be nice and smooth. So I'll go and show you the grease and we'll get this cleaned up. Right, so once you got everything cleaned up, like so, clean it with a cloth with some degreaser on it. I won't go soaking it or anything like that anywhere in there. Just wipe it, soak a rag with it and just give it a wipe round and clean it up. Little toothbrush. Just wipe it off with a dry cloth. Same for inside the wheel. And you're happy with it, then you can refit it. I'll just like show you, this is what one of them looks like when it's not got the cassette attached to it. Obviously like that, but there's a bearing in the opposite end, so it's worth checking that bearing. You can just stick it on your finger like that and spin it, and just you can feel that bearing inside. Just see if it's grinding or anything like that before you go ahead and put it back on. As for the pulls, this is what they actually look like. They got a spring round them like so, little spring like that. You can see, like so. Just holding them in place, and they actually look like that there. That's what they look like when they're not fitted. So you can replace those from time to time when they get worn, obviously. So as for the grease, now that's the actual DT Swiss grease, proper grease you can use. Basically it's a very fine grease, so it's not thick. It's not thick grease or anything like that. It's just very fine. It's a very fine grease, very thin. So you can't use anything thick on them because it won't work properly. So you have to use this or something like a finishing line grease. They do is okay on them, but I say I would just use, because I've got a pot of this, I'll just use this, and it lasts for ages. If you've got a little pot of it, it lasts years. So what I tend to do is I'll put this camera on the tripod and I'll show you better. Right, so you can see the pulls sticking out there. Obviously just check they move properly, freely, before you put any grease on them. But what you want to do, I just get a little screwdriver. I mean, you can use your finger, but to be honest, just get a little screwdriver, flat blade. I'll just get some grease on it, on the end of it, like so, and then just sort of put it like that, and then pull back over it, sort of thing, as you can see there. You don't need a lot to grease them. Sort of pull back over it. Then in a minute what I do is just work the grease into the actual pulls themselves. No point in just slapping on the outside. The movement, it moves, you know, it's got a spring in there as well, and you want it in the gap. So I just put it over it like so. Just put a bit on. Once you've got a bit on there, then you go ahead and just keep pressing on it like so, and it just works in. You don't need it all over everything else. You just want it on the actual pulls themselves, like so. Just press it, just work it into each one. So once you got it worked in there, like so, the actual pulls themselves. You want some grease down in here as well, because as you see it's got a metal collar down inside which would stick to the shaft on sticking out the wheel, so make sure you can get some on a long screwdriver. Make sure you put some in there, stop it sticking, because if it sticks on there they can be a proper devil to get off. So you're better off just put it in there, or get some on your finger. You can just wipe it round inside there with this, and as it slides on, you don't need a lot, just wipe it round, because as it slides on it'll force it. It's such a smooth, good fit on there. Once you got it in there like that, that's greased. Make sure you got some in there. I'm saying as it slides on, it's going to push the grease up in there anyway, so just make sure you got. Now the rubber, the seal on the outside here, it's worth just smearing a bit around that seal as well, because it can just help and it stops the water getting past it so easily. So just put some around there. That stops the water getting in. I'll say, once you're happy with that, I'll go and show you the wheel. Right, so here we have the wheel itself. What we're going to do on this is make sure you can put some grease, smear some grease around first, around the shaft like that, right down to nearly to the bottom there, because you got the metal collar that will go on. Just put the grease on there like that. Then you got the metal collar that you took off earlier, the spacer, and this sits down on there next, so make sure just put a bit of grease on the inside of there as well, because you don't want it sticking on there. And all I do is put this over, put this on like that, and slide it up and down a few times and just work it round like that. Just coat the inside, and after you've done that, like so, just spin it around. I'll take it back off again, and then just put a dab more, and I'll just put a little bit more grease on there, because it's wiped a lot of it off. So just top it up again, and then refit it, and then that way it's got plenty of grease under it as well, and inside it, and the collar itself. So put it down to the bottom onto the wheel bearing, like so. And then after that you can go ahead and refit your cassette. Right, so when you're ready to refit your cassette, all you do is make sure that the collar inside there is actually sort of lined up properly, it's not to one side. So when you go ahead and put it on there, you can just put it straight on like so, and it drops down like that, and then all you do is rotate it backwards and pushing down a little bit, rotate it backwards, and it just clicks in like so. This is how it's on, like that, and then so it should spin like so if everything's good. But then the cap on the top there, if you've got it like this set up where I didn't take the cassette off, the cap on the top, just push down on that and it will seat the cap back on. And make sure you push down on it. There you go, and it's popped back. It's popped back on. So that's actually fitted. And it spins a lot better for it as well. So there you go. So right guys, that was a quick maintenance video for you anyway, just on the old DT Swiss Freehub. Now as I say, this is a pull Freehub, so it's PAWL, 3 pull. Just fitted to the majority of DT Swiss wheels. Now the others, if you've got a say a 180, a 350 or a 240 rear hub, then you're going to have a ratchet system on it, which uses a different type of grease, or it's red grease, to what I've just shown there, which is for the, like I said, for a 3 pull road hub. But I say that's very similar idea, you know, very similar. Pull it off the same, it comes off the same way. The actual hub, if I could do another one on a ratchet hub, but that's just a pull hub anyway, and it pays to look after them. I mean, if you do that regularly, I mean, it only takes like 15 minutes and you've done it. So and it saves any problems with it, and it keeps it running smooth, and it saves it getting stuck on there or anything like that. And particularly if you're riding in wet conditions, the water does get in those and washes the grease out. So it pays, if you're using it a lot in the winter with wet roads and a lot of grit about and everything, it pays just to pop that off every sort of 2 weeks really, and just give it a re-grease and a clean. So it saves you a lot of hassle in the long run. But yeah, so if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and ring the bell for notifications when I upload anything else. But until the next video, keep safe, and I'll see you then.